All right, let's go ahead and get started, folks. My name is Len Thompson, and I'm Broadcom's Mainframe Division Community Manager. I want to welcome you to the first of its kind, our first HostBridge webcast. Before I hand you off to Scott Broad, who's the product manager for HostBridge here at Broadcom, a couple of things I need to go over. First, a few questions along the way, and we always hope that you do. Please use the questions box along the right-hand side of your screen, right under the GoToWebinar control panel. You can ask them there. We'll get through as many of those as we can during our time together today. If for some reason we can't get through everything today, I'll make sure that the team gets everything they need to follow up with you after the fact. We are recording the session today. That's why your lines are all muted. The replay will be available probably sometime tomorrow morning out in our brand new HostBridge community, which you should make sure you go out and join that as well. I'll also probably put it out in the Mainframe Software community just so we can reach a wider audience with it right now. So if you have colleagues you want to share that with, please feel free to point them to those two places. And the last thing for me is we want to make sure that this session is as valuable as possible. So with that in mind, I pulled together a quick survey that's going to pop up on your screen at the end of the webcast. If you could stick around for an extra minute, literally it's a minute, to give us some feedback. I know Scott and I would both really appreciate it. That's it for me. Take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Len. All right. So thanks everyone for joining today, or if you're watching the recording, thanks for taking the time. Welcome to the first webinar in our new HostBridge community, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. My name is Scott Broad. I've been in the mainframe world for over 20 years, and I've done pretty much everything on the frame, from hardware architecture, design, planning, to installing, configuring ZOS and all the ISV products, networking, storage, DR. After joining Broadcom from the customer side, I've been working on the modernization aspects of the mainframe. And I've worked a lot with the tooling and the Open Mainframe project, especially Zoe, the CLI for mainframe, which if you've been at all in anything mainframe in the last few years, it's a hot topic. So now, most recently, I've been working on the application modernization front as the product manager for HostBridge products, both HBJS and HTech. So welcome, and let's begin. Let me move this. Okay. So if you're watching this webinar, you've likely already signed up for the community, or if you haven't, please do. So welcome to the communities. Our goal in the community is to get as many users of the HostBridge products active in the community over the next few months. I'll be posting articles, asking questions about how we're using the products. What we're really looking for is as much input from our users as possible. So I want to create the direction of the product and maintain a roadmap using the input directly from the users and from the end users of our products. My goal is to continue to design and add features that are going to give you immediate value and not just ship a feature that we think you want. Input from everyone out there is how we'll all be successful. This input can be put in threads and discussed in our HostBridge community or on our ideas site. The ideas site, if some of you are familiar with, a lot of our products have these sites and have the ability to do this, but it allows you to add ideas, request features, enhancements, and vote on them. This will give all users a way to communicate directly with the product team and the engineering team. We'll periodically be looking at these enhancement requests and discussing them internally, posting them in the community. This feedback will shape the direction of our products with features and enhancements that you want to see and get them developed quickly. The communities are also a place that we'll be looking to our customers for validation of new ideas, product enhancements, and beta releases. You can vote on it. So please let your peers know, send them links, get more users involved and registered. That being said, welcome HostBridge to Broadcom. It's been an exciting few months here, as you can imagine when working with a new team and products. Now that we're approaching the end of the year, I'm happy to say that HostBridge products have been fully integrated into Broadcom. And coming soon, we'll have our first GA Broadcom releases of HBJS and HTech. There have been a few questions that have come up within the HostBridge community in regards to the direction that Broadcom is taking with HostBridge. And I'd like to put some of those concerns at ease. Broadcom is fully investing in HostBridge products, and we've already added resources and increased the size of our engineering and development team. There'll be some changes, such as the support and delivery, but all these changes are to make everything more streamlined and efficient, conforming to industry standards. We're currently building our roadmap, and we'll be sharing this in the very near future, potentially in the community. There's also some exciting new features that are in our roadmap, including a VS Code plugins to give developers a choice between Eclipse and VS Code when using HBJS. Now, a few other things to note for the GA releases and going forward. Support. Support will be handled by the normal support process that all current Broadcom customers are used to through the Broadcom support portal. You can sign up for an account with your site ID, open tickets against the HVJS or HTAC, and our support team will ensure that your ticket gets routed to the correct experts. Effective in the new GA release 8.0 for HVJS and 2.0 for HTAC, there'll be full support for LMP keys, the same way all your product licensing is handled today. This will also allow for HostBridge products to show up in your monthly ISV SCRT report submitted for compliance. And finally, the new releases will be shipped via SMP and PSWIs, allowing your team to receive, install, and maintain the products the same way they do for all mainframe products. And before we get into a brief overview of HostBridge, I'm gonna see any questions yet so far. I know we're only a couple minutes in.
No questions so far.
All right, cool. So I will continue on. So if you're not already familiar with it, this is going to give you a good high-level overview. If you are, then you may get some key takeaways. So the reason HostBridge was acquired by Broadcom was for application modernization. There are so many good and valuable apps running on Z, on CICS, that many of these applications were built a long time ago, decades, more than decades, 2, 3, 4 decades ago. And they've become a big hindrance to modernization. So HostBridge is all about API enablement, giving those developers access to the application and the data within in a modern way. We can also find, spot, and detect inefficient integrations of terminal-oriented applications. Now there's also z/OS Connect, and I want to stress we complement this. It's one of the more well-known products dealing with API enablement on System Z. It's a great product. It has some gaps, and it just so happens that those gaps it has are the ones that we fill. Now, if you read articles by Gartner, IDC, Forrester, they all talk about a number of approaches to the modernization dilemma. Now, the top two ones being replatforming, which is complex, high risk, high cost, and a lot of times doesn't meet the expectations that they had, and sometimes they end up rolling back. However, by modernizing in place, there's less of a cost involved, a shorter duration, not as complex, and much lower risk. And since in the end, you're not making any changes to the application itself. Now, the proof is really in the pudding. This is an IDC study that was done, modernizing versus replatforming. The numbers don't lie. I'm not going to go through this entire chart, but if you'd like to, this is recorded, so you by all means take a look at it. So we've establishing that modernizing in place being the best direction. So now what's next? Where do you start? So remember, modern mainframes are connected to the outside world using RPA bots, macros, integration scripts, screen scraping, and inefficient APIs. And they're all coming through channels into the frame. So you're looking at mobile, web, RPA bots, Excel spreadsheets. All of these entrances into the mainframe take up resources, networking, CPU, all adding MIPS, which inherently adds cost and performance degradation. So how do you fix it? Well, that's why we have the Integration Analytics Platform, HTAC. It was needed because you can't fix what you can't see. Now, quite often, the performance team or the KICS team can see growth in resource consumption that doesn't match transaction growth. There was one instance where a customer brought up that their resources were growing exponentially and it didn't match the business growth. They said they hit a wall, and we're going to call it the wall of inefficiency, and they didn't understand why. The overhead on the mainframe has begun to grow at a higher rate than the transactions have increased, but there's no easy way to understand or see why. So on the mainframe, as we all know, there are lots of tools that can analyze the silos, each individual area, KICS, networking, CP, storage, but there's nothing out there that puts it all together. We like to say that you can see the trees, but not the forest. And I think that's the perfect metaphor. I would say it's a very difficult manual task to understand the whole picture, the why, the what, the where, the origin from a transaction to from the beginning to the end. But in reality, it's nearly impossible. Even if they looked at each individual silo and optimized it, that still wouldn't guarantee the overall integration is efficient. So HostBridge invented an approach that's running on the mainframe and gathers data about each and every request. We then add that metadata to the SMF 110 records and transport that data to the analytics platform. Currently, this is Splunk. Why Splunk? A few years ago, the team at HostBridge polled a number of customers, and they all use Splunk. Not so much for mainframe, but they were open to it, so it was the chosen platform. So in the end, we provide dashboards. Users can create their own dashboards and get a view into what's going on in their environment. Now, there's always at least 5 to 10 areas that are causing the bulk of CPU consumption. The approach that we're taking is to target the low-hanging fruit and remediate a number of those problem areas. Now, once we've used the analytics, we can then have the conversation about remediation techniques. Now, the analytics platform, HTAC, is relatively new compared to the entire realm of mainframe, but HBJS is the seasoned product that provides a lot of value. Now, what HostBridge is best known for is doing API orchestration on the platform. And HBJS uses JavaScript to describe this orchestration. We have orchestration code running in Kix on the mainframe. Now, this doesn't mean any user of this writing APIs needs to know anything about the mainframe, since most of this work will be done in JavaScript. So basically, on a high level, instead of having the bots, Excel spreadsheets, web apps, mobile apps, working through CICS with hundreds or thousands of individual screen-oriented transactions one at a time, they'll simply be able to make a single REST API call. That call will invoke the script or a service. That script will orchestrate the invocation of transactions, programs, and or data sources to fulfill that request. And then that response is sent back to the requester, one-to-one. It's an API enablement product, all about modernization. Our mantra in and around all the Broadcom approaches is that modernization around APIs is vital. APIs have been around for a long time, and many organizations have deployed technically oriented APIs. Now, lots of these were tied to the tech. A COBOL COM area using the copybooks, technically tied. Application APIs really should be business oriented, and that's our goal. Now, a question of ZOS Connect may come up. In a Kix environment, ZOS Connect does one thing, the top of this chart. It creates an API around a single COM area program. But to accomplish a business objective, say buying milk at a large retailer, when that milk goes deep, you must, in the background, you must execute dozens of programs, pricing, inventory, ordering. Each of these consists of dozens or more individual transactions on a one-to-one basis. So you're looking at dozens, if not hundreds, of individual transactions traversing that network. ZOS Connect doesn't have the ability to do any automation or orchestration on platform, so it must be done outside the mainframe, still traversing the network on all of these calls. So instead of a single request, you have thousands for this one process for buying milk. With HostBridge, unlike the top, a single request comes in, HBJS does all of the orchestration on platform at machine speed, does the automation, and sends back the request, all in one shot, all traversing one time with one call. To drill down a little bit further, as an example of where you see those savings immediately, this is a typical call to CICS from off platform or even using ZOS Connect. Each of these dozens of calls takes up all these resources. You're looking at 3270, network, VTAM, a section manager like TPX, VTAM again, all the way to Kix. Let's say there were 20 transactions that HBJS can consolidate and orchestrate into one. Boom, 95% resource network resource savings. And that's just saying 20. What if it was 1,000 down to one? You're looking at 99%. This doesn't even take into consideration the savings of running the orchestration on platform at machine speed, and all this orchestration runs on a zip. Now, I also want to stress, while there are cost savings, the biggest benefit of all this is that modernization of your current applications, and none of this is having to change any COBOL code or any code within CICS. It's using your existing applications as is. So to finish up this overview, integration analytics allows users to see the forest and not just the trees. and understand what's driving the mainframe workload. The HostBridge JavaScript engine, HBJS, is a complete solution for rapidly developing and deploying these reusable CICS APIs. HBJS allows an existing portfolio of CI/CS applications to easily participate in hybrid IT strategies. Organizations can integrate valuable legacy applications with hybrid applications or modernize complex legacy applications as new composite apps. Whatever the end goal, integration, modernizing in place, or replatforming, HBJS supports all these objectives through the object-oriented capabilities of HBJS. And with that, that is the overview. Thank you very much for joining today. And now, if there are any questions, I'll take them. Anything pop up?
Thanks, Scott. I don't see any questions, but we'll give everyone a second to type anything in that they might have. If you are typing something a little bit longer, please feel free to just say stop or wait and hit enter so we know that you're still typing, so that we don't close while you're still typing out a long question. Scott, thank you very much. I also take this chance to remind everybody that we do have our post-event survey that's going to pop up here in a moment. We would really like some feedback on today's webcast, but we'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so to see if they have any questions. All right, I don't see anything, so I don't want to just keep this dangling out there. So Scott, thank you very much. And for everyone who joined us today, we really appreciate you and your time today. Have a great rest of your week, great weekend, and great holiday season.
Thanks. See everybody in the community.